Hello, my name is Justin Hardery, and I'm the founder of the Source Embodiment Process. And I'm making this video to share with you what the journey of Source Embodiment is all about and to help you see if this community is the right fit for you. But before we begin, I want to start by introducing myself. So, from an early age, I always believed that a more beautiful world is possible, as long as we're willing to make the effort to make it so. And so I was born into a very warm, joyful, creative home with this beautiful backyard full of meadows and woods to explore, discover, and play in. And with this environment, with this magical and mysterious expanse, I could begin to recognize who I am in this body, in this world, in a way that I felt good about. However, unfortunately, my parents didn't feel so good about each other. And when I was 6, they divorced. However, with this belief that a more beautiful world is possible, it helped me find my way through the world all the way up to where I am today. So from childhood into adulthood, carried with me all this grief and loss, which started to manifest in a lot of different accidents, illnesses, PTSD, and this profound emotional and spiritual disconnect, remembering this more beautiful world, but not quite being able to access it. But it was through somatics, through healing, that I was able to experience a lot of incredible transformation and growth, which has allowed me to now become a licensed somatic psychotherapist, an energy worker, and a spiritual integration teacher. So I see myself on a mission to help people connect to the beauty that exists in all of us by accessing their own direct connection to the magic and the mystery of the universe within, in order to empower their soul to lead the way in a rapidly changing world. And so here we are in this time in history where things look really chaotic. Things are kind of scary sometimes. And so how it is we're able to find that pathway into our inner beauty is how we're able to take the actions that are required to make the world a more beautiful place. And so if you're here, you're somebody who probably has a big vision for your future, but struggle to maintain the steady focus, energy, motivation required to bring it to life in this challenging world. You probably desire consistent access to spirit, to source, to your vitality and aliveness, and expanded states of consciousness, creative access, without having to consume anything to chase the fleeting peak experiences that are just going to slip through your fingers when you're done with whatever that is. You're probably open enough to surrender to your higher self and set your soul loose, and are open to experiencing miracles. You're also somebody who is wanting to overcome the games that the ego plays that block our soul's path to success, that block our access to source, that get in the way and sabotage our fulfilling our full potential. So what we're going to cover here, I'm first going to break down what source embodiment is, explaining the philosophy and the approach. And then we're going to get into why source embodiment, what's so important about this today, and what makes this system truly unique. And then I'll share who this work really benefits most, and also share who this work is not for, so you can be sure that you're in the right place here. Then after that, I'll be describing the arc of transformation that we employ throughout this journey of source embodiment. And then to finish, we'll end with some next steps to make it clear how you can get involved, and also offer some testimonials so you can see what it looks like for other people. So first off here, what is source embodiment? Source embodiment is the process of awakening to the innate divinity within our bodies in relationship to our humanity and the universe. Each with their own unique gifts to share, we become the source of creation itself in service to our personal and collective liberation. So what does all this mean? So it's through the body in relationship to the earth that created us that we wake up. Waking up is not about transcending and escaping the body, but learning how to bring the presence of universal consciousness down and in to our lived human experience. And of course, we are all one. However, we each have our own unique gifts and perspectives, so that when we can learn what those gifts are that only I could possibly share, or only you could possibly share, and learn how to carry them into the world, then we become a source for others. Then we become a beacon. Then we become more resource leaders, more creative visionaries, speaking into the moment in a way that only you could. So the source embodiment process is a spiritual integration system that uses earth-based energy work, ancient mysticism, non-dual philosophy, neurology, attachment theory, and cutting-edge somatic practices to activate and stabilize universal life force throughout your entire life and express your soul's full potential in your everyday world, no matter what. I know there's a lot of different elements to it here, but this process of source embodiment is a synthesis of all the most impactful and transformative, most powerful traditions, spiritualities, teachings and teachers and experiences that I personally have had to support my journey that I've also found to be really valuable and helpful for my clients in my psychotherapy practice, as well as my students in my trainings. No matter what does that mean? No matter what is, we need to be able to access what we're cultivating spiritually, even when we're in a place of feeling stressed or feeling confused or not quite fully ourselves. How we can find our pathway into ourselves is how our soul can take its seat in this body so that we can face the moment, so we can face the challenges of life on earth today from the place of presence that we've been practicing when we're in our private spiritual practice. And so it's in this way that we truly are getting off the mat, off the cushion, and taking our spiritual and empowered states that we've accessed into the world to be engaged creatively. So in more practical terms, the world is becoming increasingly chaotic, requiring us to change our behavior to survive. In other words, the personal and collective struggle is real. Change is hard because we're wired to keep things the same. Our nervous systems are designed to preserve status quo so that the experience of homeostasis can go smoothly. However, the world is changing a lot faster than we are ready for, than we've been so easily wired to adapt. Evolution is driven by making slow changes over time to adapt to challenges and benefit from resources in the ecosystem. Human evolution, however, has allowed us to alter our ecosystems to meet our needs, but too much change too quickly has created global instability. As the rate of change accelerates, under stress, our ability to innovate decreases, while our reactive short-term survival habits increase, only adding to the chaos. Innovation and effective solutions to the unprecedented problems we face today require enough balance between safety and stimulation for the nervous system and the brain's neocortex to function optimally. In other words, with so much change happening in the world, there's a lot of problems that we need to be solving for in order to continue to survive. But our ability to create those creative solutions requires that our body and our brain, our mind and body connection is flowing smoothly, which is challenging in a chaotic environment. So to build a creative and generative life in a chaotic world, we need cultures and practices that nourish the body, the mind, and the spirit equally to meet the moment responsibly. It's all about waking up consciousness within every cell of your body to turn you fully on and create balance between the body and mind so you can meet the moment with all of you online. So that your whole self is showing up. All of your gifts are available so that your presence and your wisdom is able to navigate the default mind that is wanting to operate habitually and instinctively. And it's in this way that we can start to move forward. So with the nervous system and brain firing in coherence, our capacity for self-healing and creative expression fully unlocks. And as we become to see the world more clearly, getting beyond our own projections of what's happening and actually be able to see what's there, we can respond to life with a deeper aligned presence and integrity, becoming the leaders, becoming the creatives, becoming the artists, becoming the teachers, the parents, the doctors, the healers, the politicians, even, that we need to be so that we can move forward into the world as a coherent collective, so that our collective nervous system can be functioning in balance. All of this allows for more dramatic improvements in our physical and emotional well-being, allowing our full creative potential to be lived freely. And so ultimately, source embodiment process fosters a non-conceptual, multidimensional, felt sense experience of belonging in your body, in your community, and on planet Earth, and also within the universe at large, to use as a point of departure for explorations into the uncharted wilderness of your soul and consciousness itself. That's a mouthful, I know. What does that mean? So this process here is engaging multiple layers of our being. It's engaging our relationship to ourself, our relationship to the earth, to the cosmos, and each other, as well as our aliveness, our emotions, our humanity, essentially. And finding a way to bring balance to that activates our sense of wholeness, which then helps us to feel like we truly belong here in this world. Even at this time where there's so many reasons to have doubt or fear that we might not survive the next 100 years, when we can create this safety in our being, that sense of belonging in our bodies, we can now start to move in a direction to make it safer over these next 100 years. And as far as, exploring the uncharted wilderness of your soul and consciousness itself, this is an important thing to address here that I've had a hard time figuring out how to articulate it in the slides, but I'll do my best right now, which is to say that, yes, we are these physical bodies here on physical planet Earth, but if we're living in this hyper-reductive kind of Western mindset that all we have to go on is what we can see, hear, and feel, then we're missing out on the greater subtle realms of our being. We're missing out on the unconscious. We're missing out on different guide energies. We're missing out on the energetic principles that allow life to continue, whether or not science has caught up enough to understand them. And so this is a journey in being able to open up our sensitivities to begin to access these other resources of creation that we can draw from as we move through the world. So the source embodiment mindset. This is a philosophy that a lot of this is based on. This human journey is 100% about the personal learning and growth of our soul in relationship to our body and contribution to our planetary evolution and realization as a whole. So everything that I'm doing, everything that I'm learning, everything that I'm growing and cultivating is very much in service to me, Justin, and my personal satisfaction, but also finding the balance in a way that I can gauge what my personal needs are that also support the collective. So they're not moving through the world in this hyper-individualistic, selfish, extractive relationship at the cost of everything else, but we're able to contribute back to it. And the reason for that is each of us serves a vital function in the tapestry of our collective ecosystem. It's our personal mission to discover who we truly are here to be and how we're here to serve in a way that balances our needs with the world's. And so every being in an ecosystem, if we are, whether we're a river or a tree or a bird or a stone, each element plays its part in the whole. And so our journey here is to figure out, what is my function? And of course, as humans, we have much more dynamic roles to play. And so figuring out what the nuances are of those roles allows us to play the part for ourselves and for the bigger picture in a way that supports cohesion and everything getting what they need. And so here, change and growth, of course, can be hard and uncomfortable, but by resourcing through our wholeness, through our joy, through our pleasure, it can be fun. It can be beautiful as we access what we're truly capable of. So it's this process of self-discovery that we start to feel the song and the dance and the play and the game of it. And it's in this way that even though things might be very serious in the world, we can take ourselves a little less seriously, take the pressure off of ourselves, show up a little bit more self-compassion, a little more acceptance and allowance, so that we can find the play, so we can find the wiggle, we can find the space between the different pressures and impulses that we're negotiating. And and find a way that expresses who it is that we're here to be and how it is that we're here to serve in a way that is very much, similar just to the joy of writing a poem or making a painting or just playing with a couple toys or crayons, or just having that return to a more innocent, childlike way of just self-discovery that allows us to be continuing to learn and grow in relationship to the world around us, rather than thinking that we already know. And so why source embodiment process? Source embodiment is like a spiritual gym to strengthen multiple dimensions of your spiritual development and your personal development, your psychological development, your professional development, all at once. So the elements that are engaged here: energy. We work with energy. We do energy work. We learn how to access the flow of subtle energy that's always moving through our body. Through the nervous system, we have electricity running. Through the circulation system, we have fluids running. We often associate these experiences as non-perceivable. However, we can certainly sensitize our awareness to become aware of the vitality moving through our body. And it's in this way we safely activate Kundalini, which is present in all living things. And we activate the subtle energy body, which helps to increase a sense of vitality and a felt sense of the life force flowing through the body, which is deeply pleasurable, which is deeply resourcing and deeply nourishing to feel that there is this pulse moving through me, whether or not I'm consciously intending to do anything or be anyone specific. Life continues to flow through me. And then awareness, as life continues to flow through me, as sensitivities to these more subtle realms increase, so too does our awareness, which helps to activate non-dual unity consciousness, the experience that all is one, through, of course, our unique perspective. And this helps to increase our focus, our intuition, inner knowing, deepens our mindfulness, and refines that sense of soul's purpose. It gets clear on who it is that I'm here to be in this world, while also expanding and stabilizing presence, so that as we are engaging the world around us, we're engaging our relationships, we're engaging our work, we're doing so from a place of being really here in this moment, rather than being stuck, preoccupied in the past or afraid of some unknown future. And then physically, as I mentioned already, this supports deep pleasure in the body, sense of safety, refuge. It decreases cortisol, inflammation, chronic pain, increases mobility. Even it supports the immune system, as well as boosts your libido and connection to your sensuality. So there's also the emotional and the psychological levels here. Cultivates confidence and well-being through emotional intelligence and resilience and self-compassion. And also just by learning how to be more adaptive in general, rather than reactive. It supports relational development by, this process engages group work. So engaging in the group process helps to exercise our spiritual embodiments while in connection to others, so that we can stabilize them and not just experience it personally. And it also encourages selfless service, learning how to be the fullest expression of source through you, of the universe through you, in service to the whole. And as I mentioned already, this helps to open up the unseen realms. We, in the energy work and in the trainings, we learn how to engage the energy fields of the earth and the sun and the Milky Way, this toroidal field that you see in the Source Embodiment logo. We learn how to connect to a felt sense of that through our own energy body, which also helps to open our sensitivity up to receive the support of our ancestors and any energy, our physical and non-physical guides. And then last but not least, of course, this also supports a more active, enhanced dream life. So there's a few things we really emphasize with the source embodiment process, things that really help to make this work stand out. And some of these you'll probably see in other different kinds of modalities. However, it's my interest here to bring them all together so that we can be developing an embodiment, of course, of source. So what is integration and why is it so important in our world today? So first of all, Integration is essential for us to evolve as a species, for us to have gotten this far, for us to be able to adapt to so many different landscapes and to be able to cultivate language and to be able to cultivate technologies, right? And so integration is the process of learning how to learn and grow, learning how to assimilate information from our environment. And so as children, we learn and grow by receiving the world through our senses, through our body, through our nervous system. And it informs us and it forms us. And we are in this bottom up receiving of the world in a way that allows us the sense of curiosity and wonder, allows us this ability to access play and create games. And all of this helps to speed the learning and growth process up. However, as adults, something shifts. We start to become more top-down oriented. We use the information that we've stored in our mind and our body to be able to interpret what's happening in the present moment. And this can be really helpful because we have our wisdom to draw from. But if we've experienced a lot of trauma, then we're going to be continually referencing we're going to be experiencing a perceived threat in the present as a certain threat of the past. And so our behavior then starts to become much more reactive rather than responsive, right? And this is how we get to where we are in the world today in terms of all of the different conflicts and things that are happening all over the world. So if we can learn how to slow down as adults and re-engage the bottom-up embodiment of absorbing and digesting our experience, then we can re-enter into that evolutionary stream of life, and we can be able to digest the different kinds of experiences that we have. So on the spiritual path, there's thousands, millions of different approaches to find an experience of wholeness, to find an experience of belonging in the universe, right? But if we're not slowing down to digest those experiences, could be, going to a festival every year, doing plant ceremonies every weekend. It could be watching or listening to spiritual talks by different teachers online, something that we're doing often. If we're not slowing down to really absorb, then we're just consuming our experience and it washes over us. It doesn't actually change who we are at a fundamental level. And so change is how life shapes us for better or for worse. And if we are very much stuck in our groove, even if we're doing the things that are said to be helpful spiritually, chances are we might not actually be making the changes that we think we are. We might just be showing up, going through the motions, but not actually transforming who we are at a fundamental level. And this is why happiness is so difficult to sustain. Our bodies, as I mentioned already, are wired to preserve the status quo. Familiar is interpreted as safe to the nervous system. However, if you are somebody who is used to being in a chaotic environment and now you're someplace quiet and peaceful, that peace and quiet is going to stir up all of the chaos that's still moving through your nervous system. And the unconscious is going to act out and self-sabotage. Even if you've told yourself, oh, I can't wait to go on this spiritual meditation retreat to have some peace and quiet, the unconscious is going to start making a lot of noise and generating a lot of chaos. And this is how we act out. This is how we find ourselves doing things that are unhealthy or destructive. And we're not exactly sure how we got there because the nervous system is trying to go back to what it knows. And so happiness needs to be practiced. You might think, oh, of course I want to be happy. Why should that be difficult? Because the nervous system experiences it as a threat if it's not used to it. And so learning how to flex the muscle of happiness, learning how to exercise joy, learning how to strengthen our tolerance to pleasure, right? These are all things that as we do this, it helps our body integrate the higher frequencies and the more expanded states of loving presence and awareness that we're reaching for in our spiritual experiences. So going to a retreat or going to a talk or going to a ceremony, if it's only happening every once in a while, It's not enough reps. It's not enough practice to flex those muscles and cultivate that strength, that capacity, so that we can not only just learn how to tolerate joy, pleasure, and happiness, but that it eventually starts to become who we are, right? And the other side of this, of course, is spiritual bypassing. Spiritual bypassing is using any spiritual approach to avoid actually engaging your totality, engaging your wholeness, which includes negative emotions, which includes scary memories, which includes trauma, right? And so, and bypassing can be with anything. It can be with diet, or you can do dietary bypassing. You can bypass just by being social, So it doesn't have to necessarily be a spiritual practice, but in either case, when we're avoiding the unconscious, when we're avoiding the shadow, it acts out. We find ourselves acting in ways that we didn't mean to, saying things we didn't want to, hurting people that we hold near and dear to our heart. And the good intentions that we had to be a more mindful, loving, compassionate person are out the window. Good intentions are not good enough, unfortunately, if our actions aren't there to sustain them. And if our intentions don't take us into the places of our being that we might otherwise be afraid to go, which also gets us to our culture of consumerism. It's this Western extractive relationship to the planet that has us seeking so many different spiritual experiences one after the next without actually sitting down to digest them. So if you're somebody who wants to see a world where we have enough water and we have enough food and we're not being cooked by the sun, we have to look at all the different places in our life where we're just mindlessly taking and consuming without being present to how it's affecting and transforming us. Because when we are, then we start to recognize, oh, hey, I don't actually need as much as I thought I did. Early on in my process, on my path, ayahuasca was a really big resource for me to help me heal from trauma and PTSD. And it helped me find safety in my nervous system, and it helped me find a sense of connection and wonder to the greater forces of nature. However, there came a point after a few years where I was on my umpteenth ceremony. I have no idea how many it was at that point. And nothing was happening. And I got this message. I heard this voice saying, hey, bro, you're back at the buffet again, but you haven't cleared your plate. Go back and finish what's on your plate before asking for and reaching for more. Because this is sacred medicine. This is expensive. It takes a lot of resources to develop it. Somebody else might be needing it. And so what I learned from that process is, oh, hey, wow, if I slow down and receive go back and reflect on and engage and be animated by all the different seeds that were planted in my journey, I might not be in this experience of feeling like I need to keep trying to fix myself. I might actually learn how to be satisfied with myself instead of continuing to think that there is more and more for me to consume, more and more for me to do. Right. And so if we're able to engage our sense of what's enough, what's enough water, what's enough food, what's enough land, then we can start to feel like I'm enough. I'm enough. This empty, incessant, hungry hole in my heart no longer feels the need to keep gobbling up whatever is in front of it. And I can start to feel a safety and a release in my nervous system, so that chronic appetite for more and more and more begins to settle. And now I can actually offer more to the world rather than just take. So another thing that makes the source embodiment process unique is the emphasis on somatic embodiment. What does that mean? So somatics is the engagement of the mind and the body. It's our relationship to self, our relationship to the world, as engaged not by analysis, not just by cognition alone, as is the very Western way of moving through the world, but engaging the entire body as the mind, right? The brain is the brain. The mind is the entire collection of information that's stored not just in our neural structures and in between our synapses, but also in our muscular, in our skeletal, and our visceral experience in the memory that's held in each of our cells, right? And so here we see two bodies, two nervous systems, and beyond this physical, we also have the energetic. You can see this source embodiment logo here. This is here to represent the electromagnetic field of the heart. So when we engage the body, when we engage the mind, we also engage the presence. We also engage the ancestral wisdom. We also engage not just the physical, but the energetic qualities of our experience. And it's through the electromagnetic field of the heart that we can feel each other. Without it, we wouldn't have the emotional process. We wouldn't have the relational axes that we engage on. And so by learning how to come into contact with the body as the seat of the soul and as the point of contact at which we experience all spiritual phenomena, whether it's seen or unseen, all felt in the body, when we can make the body the ground floor of our spiritual experience, then we can develop a more grounded and more mature spiritual relationship to ourself and the cosmos, right? So with somatic embodiment, there's an embracing of our humanity. We're not trying to escape. We're not trying to transcend and get out of this body into 5D. And sure, yes, we are certainly accelerating in the frequency of our collective consciousness, and maybe we are transcending to 5D. But that's not going to happen by leaving our body. That's only going to happen by coming further down and into it. And so it's in this place that all of the different traumas, all of the different fears, all of the different resistances and blockages and contractions will be negotiated and released so that we can have that experience of wholeness, right? Because it's only through the body that we can experience our true nature. Without it, then the journey continues on to the next life. And then we also have the emotional realm. Emotions are important. A lot of spiritual traditions say that there's something to ignore or deny. Personally speaking, from my perspective as a somatic psychotherapist, emotions are what give us access to our wholeness, what give us access to our authenticity. They're what give us access to our humanity and what help us navigate through our story, whether it's a really limiting, resourcing story or a limited story that keeps us from moving forward. When we can learn how to let our emotions move, when we can learn how to let our emotions be in motion, the contractions in the mind soften, and then our story can start to change. And then, of course, for me to have a body allows me to be in relationship to other bodies, other people, right? So there's also this relational dimension that we're engaging, which is where we have, a meaningful life, a meaningful human life, which is where we negotiate our differences, which is where we negotiate our needs, which is where we learn how to satisfy our needs and satisfy others. So all of these different qualities allow for, a much more meaningful and rich existence. And then on the practical level, when we learn how to engage the body, here we can learn how to engage the nervous system. We can learn how to engage perception. We can learn how to move through the body with greater mobility and agility and agency, and physically take the actions that we need to create the changes that we're here to make in this world. And then going beyond this, if the body is the ground floor of our experience that we source our sense of self from, going beyond that, of course, is where we come from. Where do we come from? We come from planet Earth. And this is the ground of being for our 3D physical experience in the world. The Earth here, you can see again with the toroidal field, is also creating a magnetic field. This mirrors the magnetic field of the heart, right? When we learn how to engage our Earth connection, we also learn how to get sensitive to the field, the magnetic field of the Earth. And this allows for our body to start to create a safe relationship to the Earth. Not everyone's relationship to the Earth is safe for a good reason. Famine, drought, natural disasters, all of our ancestors have suffered these experiences, and we hold the memory of them in our bodies. So there can be a natural mistrust of the Earth in some ways, and yet this is also the very thing that is responsible for our creation. This is what feeds us. This is what provides for the resources that keep us warm and safe. So when we engage our earth connection and extend into not just the physical form of the earth, but also the more fluid energy of the earth, right? It helps to awaken our energetic experience, right? And so here we have the field of the earth. We also have the magnetic field of the sun, which helps us to balance the magnetic field, the electromagnetic field of our heart. And when we can experience all of these things, and this may seem kind of mystical or even metaphorical, but as we learn how to connect deeper into our body, into the subtle energy that our body is generating, then we can start to feel the difference between my field and your field, the field of my heart and the field of the earth. And the experience of oneness, of connection to the greater whole of the universe is not just a philosophy. It's not just theology. It's not just a theory. It's something that's felt sense in the body and can be measured at how the body is functioning in relationship and coherence with itself. How is our heart rate? How is our digestion? How is our mind? Are we thinking from the frontal cortex of our evolutionary capacity and our creative problem solving, or are we more occupied in our reptilian brain and reacting instinctively, right? And so this is all beautiful and wonderful to be able to have this experience. Super, super liberating, super resourcing, super inspiring to feel when your energy body lights up like this, to really have that sense of, oh, hey, wow, yeah, this is that thing that I've experienced in other peak experiences in my life. This is the thing that I only thought was possible when I was in a plant medicine ceremony, or, to be able to access this in your own home, to be able to carry this with you into the world. Really beautiful, really important, really transformative to have this shift take place. However, of course, there is more work to do, because it's with shadow integration. When we integrate the shadow, that we can really turn on our capacity in this world and really make the transition from being extractive people who are causing more harm than good in the world to flipping that script and showing up in the world offering more than we're taking, right? Because here we are each living unique beings, each with our own soul's purpose. And we have this line separating our experience of our totality, right? And that's the line between what we're aware of, what we're conscious of, and what we're not conscious of. The body, for most of us, is deeply unconscious. There's a lot going on in the body that we're not aware of. And for the most part, that's okay. But the more we can become aware of that, the more we can become aware of the memories and the traumas that we hold in our body, the perceptions and the belief that we shape by taking on different postures and roles in the body, the more we can start to unravel this thread so that our soul's purpose can thrive. So as long as the shadow is ignored, there will be this contraction that limits our thriving, both as individuals and as a species. However, as we begin to do our shadow work, what was once unconscious becomes conscious. Here you can see the line up here. Consciousness is, I don't feel anything from my trunk up, right? So for some people, they're very well aware of what's happening in their head, but no idea what's happening in their feet. No presence that's extended throughout the entire body. And yet, as we engage all the principles that we've engaged so far through the source embodiment journey, the unconscious gets reduced. The line between what we're conscious of and what we're unconscious of expands, or the amount that we're conscious of rather expands. And so in this way, what was once a problem, the shadow, is now actually a resource, right? When we learn how to recognize that in my fear or in my anger, there's a tremendous amount of vitality. When I learn how to receive the vitality of that anger creatively, I can now apply it and create with it. I can bear fruit with it, right? If you imagine how much energy you're experiencing when you're afraid, what if you could see that as your energy, rather than life happening to you? What if it felt like life was waking up through you, right? And so here we have the source of the light. Here we have the source of the shade and the rain, shadow over here too, right? And here we have the shadow as source. What happens when the part of us that feels like they're alone or is worthless starts to wake up and starts to be nourished by the fruits of the world? Who do we get to be as individuals and our sole purpose when our deepest wounds are healed and fed, and are the energy that we'd otherwise be wasting and exhausting on fears and projections is now what is fueling our evolutionary awakening process. And then last but not least here, what makes the source embodiment process unique compared to a lot of other offerings is that we are power aware in source embodiment process. And what does that mean? So many spiritual communities, many governmental systems, a lot of organizations in general in our modern culture are developed as a hierarchy, right? And so here we have a top-down distribution of power, right? Here's the president, here's the guru, here's the community leader, here's the boss, right? And this person here at the top has the vision and has those that are beneath them to execute, to deliver that mission and distribute it to more people, right? Another way is looking at it is here's the center of information here, and it's going outward, right? So it's this top-down, one-directional flow of power. Now, in most spiritual communities, specifically traditional communities, there is a teacher who has the knowledge, and then there are the students, right? And this is okay, if the teacher is somebody who is self-aware, if there's somebody who is respectful and responsible. However, this creates a problem because there isn't any communication going from the bottom up. So if there's any problem with the teaching, there isn't any way to communicate that there is something that's not working for the majority, right? And if we go back to the shadow, what happens if the teacher hasn't integrated their shadow? What happens if there's no culture in the community for talking about the shadow? What happens if it's all love and light and we're just going to ignore the inconvenience and the difficulty of the shadow? Well, we get spiritual communities that reflect cult behavior, that reflect abuses of power, that reflect acquisition of resources, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, sometimes physical abuse. We get a top-down system of power that is not in communication with itself, right? Similarly, if we go back to the body, what happens if the body's not in communication with itself? What happens if there's pain in the toe that the brain isn't registering? Well, that could turn into gangrene and you might lose that toe, which could end up killing the whole body, right? And so if we can appreciate here that there is a time and a place for a hierarchical structure, but the way we're engaging this currently in the source embodiment is to establish the community and establish the practices and establish the structure and the culture just to get the ball rolling, so that when there are other facilitators, which could be represented by, these people here, when there are more people who are contributing to the development of source embodiment process as a community, then we will switch to a hierarchical structure. And so currently we are running trainings in preparation for a facilitator training that will be happening later this year. And once we have enough other facilitators who are offering the energy work sessions and trainings and workshops, then we will have a distributed expression of power, right? And so here there's a bidirectional exchange of power between the one in the center. There's communication going this way. There's also communication going this way. And so what we have here is something that's much more reflective of an organic process. This is how our cells communicate, right? This is how our bodies function. This is how ecosystems thrive, is that there is an exchange of flow and information. And so eventually we will have source embodiment facilitators who are able to bring their own unique gifts to the process. And so the teachings that you would be receiving from them would be different than the teachings you're receiving from me. And the teachings that they're sharing are teachings that I'll receive. And so that as a community, we can all grow together. We can all expand together in our authority, in our personal authority, and in our collective authority. So in this way that power is more distributed evenly, we can also ensure that there will be less risk of more damaging, less risk of harm and perpetuating the power dynamics that have created a lot of the problems that we're experiencing in the world today. So once we are in this place here, we are now in the embodiment of source, not just as individuals, but as the collective itself. So as you can see, source embodiment is not just how it is that I am the embodiment of source, but how we can create models that support a transition from an old paradigm into a new paradigm at the level of community, at the level of collective. So hopefully you have a sense by now whether or not source embodiment process is something that you resonate with. But I just want to speak to who source embodiment seems to benefit the most. Entrepreneurs, artists, healers, teachers, creatives, parents, couples, anyone who identifies as a change maker, who also identify as part of the greater whole of our planet and are committed to birthing the new paradigm through their craft and visionary process. So this speaks again to our unique soul's gifts that we're here to bring. What becomes possible with my vocation, with my craft, with my creative expression when I am feeling that I am held by the universe, when I am feeling flow of life force moving through my being and my body. What happens for me is my ability to express and communicate and carry my work into the world becomes a lot more as a vehicle for this transmission. And other people seem to respond to it in a different way. And so it's my curiosity to see what happens when we empower these kinds of people with these resources so that whatever it is that they're doing, even if they're not a healer like me, even if they're not interested in running energy work for groups of people, that they can carry their soul's source frequency through whatever it is that they do. And that presence can be felt, and there can be that ripple out effect. So whether it's through music, through writing, through art, through raising children, that the source connection that you're experiencing can be modeled as a way of illustrating and showing others who are not engaged in this work what becomes available when we are both connected to ourself, our soul, and the whole. This is also great for people who are mature spiritual practitioners who already know that there are no quick fixes, yet believe miracles are possible when we commit to the work it takes to achieve them. So any breakthrough, any miracle, any major sea change or transformative event all starts with some flow of change, some shift that's already happening beneath the surface before we're aware of it. And a lot of that becomes possible by having a practice, by having some discipline, by having a routine that allows us to continue to feed on and integrate that which we receive through these resources. With enough of that, I like to say it's like, as babies, we absorb calcium from milk, and eventually that calcium turns into teeth that we can learn how to feed ourselves alone. And were the teeth a miracle? Of course they were. But there was this slow change happening underneath the surface over time that allowed for them to form. And this is how spiritual change unfolds as far as I see it. I also really appreciate discerning students who are turned off by the old school top-down guru paradigm that also already know no teacher can fix or save them but themselves. And so that you are recognizing that this is something to help you get to the next level. You already have everything that you need inside of you. Yes, you could find your full realization and awakening on your own in a different way. But with these tools here, how do they support getting you to that next step and the next step and the next step, right? That it's your own soul's passion and inspiration that's going to carry you there. And then spiritual athletes or warriors who recognize the responsibility and reward of shadow work. So people who are looking to find the resources and tools to engage the parts of them that they don't already know. And sometimes the shadow is not always something negative or scary. It might be the full committed confidence that we haven't yet embodied, the full passion and sense of inspiration that we haven't allowed ourselves to fully feel. Just wanting to make that note. Essentially, anybody who's open-minded does really well with source embodiment. And so if you're somebody who's already tried everything like plant medicine, yoga, meditation, therapy, Reiki, breath work, ice baths, and on and on and on, all the things, and you've experienced, some benefit here and there, but nothing that has really given you like traction to feel like if I'm not practicing it, then it's still working for me. This is a great practice for that. Even when you have dropped off practice, I've got students who didn't keep up with the practices, who can still tune in and connect to what gets open up here, even if they haven't touched it in months, right? And so what we're talking about here is a permanent change that allows for consistency without having to continue to consume more and more different kinds of things. It's great for spiritual seekers who have had fleeting moments of awakening and realizing their full potential, but have struggled to integrate them into their daily reality. And so if you're somebody who has had a major breakthrough in some peak experience, and you felt like, oh, great, now I understand how I need to be for the rest of my life, and it's all figured out. Wonderful. I've figured it all out. And then when you start to come home and you start to lose that feeling and it slips through your fingers, right? This is a practice for people like you who are seeking to stabilize their access, not just have it be this exotic, rare event that you have to spend thousands of dollars for and fly to another continent to experience. This is something that you can begin to experience in your own home, whatever you want it. Great for psychonauts, explorers of consciousness, peak experience junkies, plant medicine people, anyone who's ready to get off the spiritual roller coaster of these highs and lows of discovery and forgetting and realization and loss. Anybody who's wanting to, just be able to find more balanced experience of your spiritual states without having it to blow you out and open you up in a way that might be hard to put back together. Anybody who's ready for true change that lasts. And then last but not least, anybody who is seeking support through major life transitions, breaking old patterns like grief, anxiety, depression, bad habits. All of these things are really fully welcome here. You don't need to be any particular way. You don't need to have it all figured out. You could be going through something really difficult. You could be going through a life transition that is challenging. As long as you're willing to try new things, this can be a deep resource for helping to get you the nourishment that you need so you can get to that next chapter in your life. However, that said, a caveat here, who source embodiment is not for, if you are currently experiencing any kind of mania, delusion, psychosis, suicidal ideation, or acute PTSD or CPTSD symptoms, and have not yet addressed those and stabilized them, then this is not appropriate at this time. Definitely encourage getting the support that you need and getting a sense of your feet on the ground with these kinds of resources, professional therapist, having other guides and coaches, acupuncture, finding different ways to stabilize, doctor if needed. If you're somebody who is more interested in spiritual power over liberation, this is not the practice for you. This is Jedi training. So if you are somebody who sees the power in this work and wants to use that to escape your humanity or to impress other people or control other people, then this is just not the right space. Anybody who has an aversion to self-reflection and radical self-responsibility, meaning you don't want to look at your shadow, somebody who, if you absolutely do not receive criticism or feedback well, if you're not willing to look at how your behaviors and decisions that you're making could be contributing to your own unhappiness or may even be creating unhappiness for others, this is a path of radical responsibility. So being able to recognize how I show up and the beliefs that I have for the world reflect the actions that I take, and how I experience the world is the ground floor for what allows for these changes and transformation to be possible. And again, if you're somebody who prefers the love and light kind of spiritual bypass approach to spirituality, wanting to escape the shadow and transcend the pain of being in a body, rather than fully embracing our humanity as a path of awakening, not the right fit. And then if you're somebody who has really no interest in discovering more about you, you think you already know what you need to know, you think you've already done all of your shadow work, you think you have already awakened, then this is also, you're not going to get a whole lot from this work. Yeah. And also if you feel like you've already integrated everything there is to integrate. Another layer here, if you're somebody who believes emotions are irrelevant and an obstacle to the spiritual process, something to transcend, or you're somebody who's overly identified with your emotions and your story at the expense of self-awareness, kind of stuck in the drama triangle of, the feeling of being a victim to life. Life is always happening to you. And, of course we all go there sometimes, but if you're somebody who is either end of these spectrums, feels like emotions are for other people or too feminine or not helpful or relevant, or you feel like your entire life is based on your emotions, then also not the right fit here. And if you're somebody who's looking for a quick fix, a silver bullet, or a teacher to save them from yourself, to save you from yourself, then this is not the place for that either. I am here to help people learn how to empower themselves. I'm here to help people learn how to I'm happy to cook a meal to help you learn how to feed yourself. But ultimately speaking, as a therapist, it's my job here to empower people to be able to stand on their own 2 feet, which also speaks to my values for the power structure that I spoke of earlier. I'm not here to keep people dependent on me or dependent on this process. I'd much rather have people who are showing up with an interest of stepping into their empowerment and creating a co-creative environment together where we're all pulling our weight and we're all offering more back than what we're taking. And then anyone who's resistant to engaging lower frequencies, such as fear or anger, as part of their journey, I already spoke to this. This also goes into the spiritual bypassing. And then last but not least here, this is not the right fit for you right now if you don't have the availability to just give yourself 20 to 30 minutes every other day for a spiritual practice. Now, if you're coming for the one-off classes that I offer and the activations, there's no commitment for practice there. You're welcome to just come and go as you please. But if you are interested in the trainings, this is essential too. So, source embodiment pillars. This is getting into how the process works. And I'm only going to go briefly into these. If you are interested in going deeper into the trainings, please reach out and schedule a discovery call, I should say, and I'll break down each of these pillars in depth so you can understand more of the mechanics of this work. But going through this briefly here. And so here's pillar 1, tapping the well of creation. Activate the creative cosmic whole within using somatic earth-based energy work. So what does this mean? Each of us has the entire universe within ourselves. And so if we want to experience our wholeness and oneness within the universe, we need to look within to get there. And we do this by engaging somatic earth-based energy work. And this is a process that helps to activate and amplify the experience of life force energy moving through you. So your experience of vitality and aliveness is felt in the body. And then once we do this, we move on to pillar 2, anchoring into the infinite. Here we exercise and stabilize your intimate relationship with the ineffable, wherever you go, no matter what. So once the life force is activated, then we engage somatic practices to learn how to keep that activation and keep that connection going, stabilizing it. So you can be experiencing and embodying your source connection in the privacy of your own practice space, or also in the supermarket, or stuck in traffic, or even with your family or in challenging relationships. Here we learn how to tease out and expand the experience of our source connection into the domains of everyday life that we don't often associate with having spiritual access. And then pillar 3, illuminating the shadow. We create pathways to alchemize the unconscious into aliveness and prevent it from sabotaging the expression and maturation of your soul. So this is a process of going into the ways that we say no to life, the resistances that we have, the limiting beliefs that we have, and carrying our source connection that we established in the first 2 pillars and stabilized, and learning how to bring that into the parts of ourselves that are most often associated with spiritual disconnect, with feeling a loss, or feeling like a door has closed, or we forgot something, or we made a mistake. How do we learn how to sustain our source connection even when we're feeling triggered or upset or scared or confused? It's in this way that we can allow the source energy and the awareness to begin to actually heal these deeper wounds in our psyche, so that as we're expressing our purpose, going here into pillar 4, that our purpose is being expressed in a way that is integrated. So pillar 4, animating your avatar, embodying your sourced soul's purpose in service to a better world. It's one thing to know what it is that we want to do in this life. It's one thing to know what we feel our life's purpose is. But when we can connect our purpose to our experience of our source connection, it's like having the wind in our sails, because here we're a lot more responsive. We have better connection to our intuition. We have the felt sense of vitality helping to fuel our efforts, our projects, and our actions and our creativity. And to be able to have it not be just about us. This is not just a fancy form of navel gazing. This is about taking the spiritual potency, power, embodiment, empowerment that we've cultivated for ourselves and sharing it with the world to spark that sense of a connection to something greater, to something more meaningful, something empowering, something resourcing and nourishing in others wherever we go with whatever it is that we do. And so each of these pillars here are all in service to answering this question. And throughout the journey, we keep coming back to this question, which is, who do you get to be when your cup overflows? And so if you are able to establish and sustain your direct connection to source, and it is helping to heal the parts of you that feel separate from source and helping to animate the parts of you that want to serve in the world and become a source yourself. When we are in the embodiment of source, like the sun radiating light for all of us on earth to benefit from, there is no depletion. It's self-sustained. There's a continual feedback loop of satisfaction in the giving and the receiving. And so it's in this way we can begin to heal from the Western cult of hyper-individualism that feels like if I give you something of mine, then I'm not going to have enough. Or if I do give you something, I'm going to have to sacrifice something that I need, right? In both cases, there's a myth there that only helps to create more of this culture of consumption and extraction. But when we are in the flow of receiving life itself moving through us, I have the energy that I need. I can experience it. I can feel it. I can embody it. I can express it in a way that helps to activate that in you and others, right? And so it's in this way, there's a chain reaction that unfolds with this work that I find to be really what drives me to be able to want to share this work. It inspires me to be able to want to offer this video to you and want to include you in this process to see what we can build together, to see more beauty, what kind of a beautiful world truly is possible beyond the surface appearances that we're navigating today, when we can access that beauty within. And so, wanting to share a few testimonials here with you so you can get a sense of how others have responded to this, and then we'll close out with next steps.
I'm Christine Jones.
My name is Sri.
My name is Caroline Hatunji.
My name is Simon.
My name is Mara, and I've been a part of the Source Embodiment community for 9 months.
My name is Chris Clavio.
My name is Brittany Neff, and I've been a part of this community since the fall of 2020.
Something that really surprised me about this work is how well integrated mystical sciences are in the psychosomatic approach that Justin has developed for this practice. And because of that, it brought online not only my nerdy science side, but it also invited in a blossoming of my intuitive gifts.
When I came to my first activation, I'm pretty sure I was exhausted because I was just running on empty, like all the time.
It was very subtle, it was very quiet, it was very calming, and it was very mysterious.
My body moved in such a free way, and I felt electrified with energy in a way that just made me feel so alive.
I was scared of the mystery. I was scared of the light, of the amazingness that life is and source is. And I'm not anymore.
I mean, I've been going to these ashrams and these obscure places, and then the answer comes on a Zoom call. Sitting in my house is so absurd. It's funny.
What am I grateful for? There's so much to be grateful for in a community of practice, of grounded and heartfelt people seeking to deepen their relationship with Source.
I am in my power and I have resources to actually share my energy instead of just giving it all away.
Literally every area of my life has been transformed in some way, shape, or form, from my mobility and accessibility to mental clarity around executive functioning, all the way to my spiritual path and having a better understanding of how to be in service for Source and for humanity in ways that have resourced me and nourished me on every level.
If you feel called to do it, if you feel interested and compelled, just jump in and check it out. Don't overthink it. Don't try and rationalize it. Just if you feel called, answer the call.
And so you can see everybody's experiences is a bit different, but there are, of course, a lot of themes that people are reflecting on too. So hopefully you can have a sense of what this might look like or feel like for you. So as we wind down here, I just want to extend a warm, grateful thank you for making it this far in the video. I know it's a lot of information to take in, but hopefully through it, you've been able to find your own inspiration to want to see what Source embodiment might feel like for you. And so I have these next steps here. Coming up, we have a training, which is phases 1 and 2 together. This is where we learn how to self-activate our connection to Source energy, to be able to do this energy work on ourselves and carry it with us into the world wherever we go, as well as integrate that into our shadow, the parts of ourselves that have felt separate from Source that often sabotage our success and potential. And this way it helps to animate our soul's purpose so we can fully be who we're here to be and do what we're here to do. And then the phase 3 training we'll have later in the year. This is a facilitator training for anyone who wants to learn how to share this work with the world by offering group energy activations as well as weekend workshops. There'll also be a 5-month mastermind that goes along with this training. It's in person, and then it finishes with coaching, group coaching to help you learn how to bring it into the world in a meaningful way for your community. And if you'd like to get a little bit more of a sense as to what this work looks and feels like under the surface, on my website, there's a free masterclass that offers a really powerful tool for integrating pretty much any peak experience you've ever had and being able to bring those feelings and that sense of presence and embodiment, empowerment into your daily world with a tool and a practice that really is the cornerstone for all the work that we do and all the trainings. And then in my calendar on my website, you will see source activations. This is group energy work, and it might be one of the better ways to get a sense as to if this source embodiment process is the right fit for you. And if you'd like any one-on-one support, of course, I'm available for personal coaching as well as more long-term spiritual mentorship. And you can find all of that at justinhardery.com. And so in closing here, if it's not already clear, it's really my intention here, not to just fill my classes and my trainings with as many people as I can, but I'm really curious and excited to see what source embodiment looks like for you. And for those that do feel inspired and called to go for the whole journey, I know that though I am sitting in the seat as a teacher, I have as much to learn from my students when we are all working together in a community, each embodying our source connection and our soul's purpose. And so it's in this way I know that I have as much to learn and to receive from what gifts you're here to bring into the world. And so it'd be an honor and a privilege to be able to invite you into this process so we can explore and discover what all that looks like together. Thanks so much for taking the time, and really do hope to see you soon.